Hopefully you've had a good go at this practical yourself. Now let's go over one of the possible ways of solving this together. So as you can see with my HTML, it's all pretty much just hard coded in at the moment. So for example, if I was creating a prototype, this would be a good way to do it. So essentially what I've got is just a header, a h3 with an ID saying welcome message, and then an image with the source hard coded in. I've done a bit of CSS just to make things look kind of nice. I've centered the h1 and the h3. With the image that comes up, I've given it a border that's white and just kind of made sure it's kind of central, just to make it look a bit nicer. So now let's get into actually how we do this with the JavaScript and how we can actually get started with making it an actual responsive website that does what it says. Let's start by creating our variable to get the hour number. So here's the line in case you forgot. So I'm creating a variable called hour_num. I can call that whatever I please. I'll just call it hour to make it easier. Then I'm creating a new date. And so this is something we used right near the start of JavaScript in the module. And then we used a method within that called .getHours. And this returns just a number between 1 and 24 because it's a 24-hour clock. So if it's 1 o'clock, it's 1 in the morning. If it's 15, then it means it's 3 p.m. So if we look back at what we're actually trying to do here, the first thing we're trying to do is to have this appear as good morning, good day, good evening, or good night based on what time it is. So I think what we need to think about here is that there are 4 different possibilities. We've got a time between, and I'm just going to come up with this off the top of my head. I'm just going to write this out actually. So let's just say, for example, we want morning to be between, I don't know, 4 a.m. and 11 a.m. And let's say we want day to be 12 p.m. until, let's go for 5, let's go to 6 p.m. And then evening we'll have as 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. Then night, let's have going from 11, that used to be 7. Because the reason why I changed that from 6 to 7 is you can't have, if we said evening was 6 and day was 6, then it'd be kind of confusing because then it's both day and evening. So we can't have that. So we'll have 7, and then let's have night as 11 p.m. until 3 a.m. Okay, perfect. So that's how we're going to do it. Now, what might have popped to mind is that we have a number of conditions here. So we're basically saying if the time is between 4 and 11, then it's morning. Else if it's between 12 and 6, it's day. Else if it's between 7 and 10, it's evening. Else the rest of the time it's going to be night, right? So what do you think? Let's go for using an if-else statement. So I'm going to start with if. I'll put in brackets the condition, which is going to be that the hour is between 4 and 11 a.m. So what I do here is I say if the hour is more than or equal to 4. Now we also want to add another condition. We want to say if the hour is more than or equal to 4 and it's less than or equal to 11, then blah 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 blah, right? So we want to use the operators, the logical operators we were looking at before. So we want to say, I'm just going to put in the word for now, just to simplify things. This isn't actually how I'd do it. If the hour is more than or equal to 4, and the hour is less than or equal to 11. Now you might remember that what we put in here for the and is 2 of the and signs. So now that we have that, let's put in what we want to happen. Well, what we want to do is we want to change this header here with the ID welcome message. So I'm going to do document.getElementById and put in the welcome message here. Then change the inner HTML. This is all very good revision for you. And then we'll put in good morning. Right, so my time on my computer right now is 11:42 a.m. So it's not actually going to fit into that. So let's just put that as 12 for now, just so that we can see it working. Okay, so let's take a look at why this might not be working. Oh, of course, we still have this. So, just to make sure you understand what's happening here, the JavaScript is trying to read what the code is saying here, and this isn't code. It's absolute gobbledygook because it's not JavaScript code. So if we want to include this text in there, just like we had for HTML, we need to include it as a comment. Now the way that we do that with JavaScript, for some reason that didn't work. We have a /, and this is a multi-line comment. If we wanted it to be one line, we can just do 2 /, and that makes this one-liner comment. If we want it to be all of these lines, we can do \, and then the asterisk, which is the little star, and then at the end here we do ***, and that turns everything in between there into a comment. So now this won't be picked up, it will be ignored, and so it won't cause a problem. Fantastic. So as you can see, this is now saying good morning. Now let's change that to 11 like we wanted it, and you're going to see that there's a problem here. It's still just about 11 on my clock, so I'm just going to change this down to 10. And I was just doing some debugging, so let's remove that. So there we go. So now that it's not 11 o'clock, now that it's less than or equal to 10, it's not working correctly because it's 11 o'clock. So this is basically looking for anything that's between 4 and 10. So if we change it back to 11 now, you'll see it's now working. Okay, fantastic. So the next thing we want to look at is we want to look at if the time is between 12 and 6 p.m. So we're going to use an else if here because we have a number of different conditions we want to include in here. So we can do else if, then in brackets we put our condition, which is hour is more than or equal to 12, and the hour is also less than or equal to 6 p.m., which is going to be 18. Then let's have this say good day. Now in order to test this, it's going to be kind of difficult, right? Because we have this var hour is equal to new date. So it's only ever going to return us 11, and then in the next 12 minutes it's actually going to return 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this now in a comment. And we're just going to use a placeholder variable just while we're testing. So I'm going to do var hour, I'm going to put that as 13. So I'm going to be using this in production now, but until then, while we're testing, we're just going to use just a hard-coded number. So let's have a look at if this works now. So var hour, let's pretend it's 1 o'clock. So if someone were to open this, and the hour was at 1 o'clock, which is, it's more than or equal to 12, and it's also less than or equal to 18, then we should have good day. Fantastic. And now all we really need to do, for the next one anyway, is we can just copy and paste that. So we can do less than 7 p.m. So that's going to be 19. Sorry, more than 19. And less than 10 p.m., which is going to be 22. We can have good evening. Let's just test that. Let's say it is 8 o'clock. So that would be 20. We have good evening. Okay, fantastic. And finally, any other time that hasn't been covered, because the time is going to be between 0 and 24, we have all the times covered except for between 0 and 3 and then 22 and 24. And all those times that we haven't included here are going to be night. So we can just include that as an else at the end, because we're saying if it's any other time, it's going to be night. So, oops, let's just copy this one. We can have that as good night. So let's test this finally with, let's say it's 11 o'clock at night. Fantastic. So it looks like it's all working now. Fantastic. So that's the first thing that we wanted to do. The next thing we could look at is, let's look at changing the background color, because that's also kind of within what we already know. So with that, all we need to do is add another line to each of these if statements now. So we can also do document dot body dot background color is equal to, so for the morning we already have a nice color here, which I've got in the down to the bottom here. So let's use that one. And then we can use this line here for the day, for the evening, oops, and for the night. Now I'm just very quickly going to choose some colors for that. So for the daytime, let's make it a bit more orangey, let's say. Let's go for something like this. Looking good. And then for the evening, let's go for something a bit grayer, a bit bluer maybe. Maybe something like, that looks good. And then for night, let's just go for like a very dark yellow, just to make things interesting. Okay, fantastic. So if I refresh the page now, let's change this to, okay, so for some reason it's not working, so let's see why. Document.body.style, we need to add .style in there. There we go, that's better. And all the others have style, yes, okay. So this should work now. Okay, let's try it for, I don't know, 19. Yep, seems to be changing nicely. Let's finally go for a nighttime one. So let's go for midnight. And it's back. Okay, great. Final thing to look at now is how can we change the image? So what I think we should do, and I've done this before, is let's look at how we can change this. So let's go for JavaScript, change src. So let's have a look. Programmatically change the src of an image tag, that looks good. Yep, so this pretty much looks perfect for us. So it's basically saying that you just need to use an ID and then use .src. So let's give that a try and see if that's what we need here. So first of all, let's take a look at our image. Okay, so let's give it an ID of, let's just call it welcome image. And then in here, let's give it a try. So we've already got the morning one kind of set as the standard one. So as the morning.jpg. So let's miss that one out and let's go straight for the daytime one. So obviously what you want to do yourself is download a few images. I've already done that. So I'm just going to do document.getElementById. And that's welcome image. And then I think, yep, just .src equals, and then I think I've just called it day.jpg. So, so we need to change the time obviously to test this. So this needs to be, let's go for 13, let's go for 1 PM. Yay, so the image has now changed as well. Perfect, so this is all looking good now. Let's just update these ones too. So this one should be evening, and this one should be night. So obviously we need to change the hard-coded time. Let's go for evening, okay, and then night. Fantastic. And obviously what we could do at night as well, if we really wanted to, we could change the color of the text as well so it stands out a bit more. But essentially we've covered all the major areas here, and hopefully you have a better understanding of how we've used if, else, if and else to make this happen. So just to quickly recap what we've done, and also I will remove, I'll keep this comment in here because if someone else were programming it, they'd want to see how we've decided to make the timings. But I will go back to having this as our number. Okay, fantastic. So what we've done is we generated the hour, the actual hour, the time, and then we used if-else statements. And so we basically want to say if the hour is in the morning, then we want to change the message and the background color, and the image for a lot of them. Else if it's around daytime, then we have all this stuff. Else if it's evening time, and then finally else for the rest of the times. So we also use the logical operators here. So we're saying if the hour is more than or equal to 4 and the hour is less than or equal to 11. So we were able to start using those as well. And we also came across how we can change the image actually by doing getElementID by ID .src. And then you just give the name of the file to use. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, maybe go over this lecture again, give it a try yourself. It's always important to try this stuff yourself. And then when you're ready, I'll see you in the next lecture.